Hi, I'm Nicola and I'm the Managing Director of Poke. We are a creative agency based in Liverpool.
My name is Bella Lewis. I am from a little borough called Rosendale, but I live here in Liverpool. I came here for university, much like you guys, and I didn't want to leave just because obviously Liverpool is the best. I am the Business Development and Events Manager at Think Wine Group. Our lovely Think Wine Group is a vegan and organic wine brand. We specialise in sparkling wine, so it's Prosecco and Sparkling Rosé. It was founded here in Liverpool in 2019 by our lovely director, Catherine Jones, and she wanted to do everything right from the get-go, which means that our wine is vegan, organic, B Corp, which means we are really sustainable. If you don't know, get to know. B Corp is amazing. And we have them in cute little can sizes. We also have them in large bottles. So my job is to get us into venues and event spaces and work with festivals to basically get our wine out and about, spread the word, and obviously make sales.
In my career history to date, I actually went to the University of Liverpool. I actually had a full-time job while I was at university, so it was a bit of a busy time for me, and potentially I didn't get the most out of university that I could have done, but I still think it was the right choice at the time. It's led to kind of my career path as it has been. I've worked in a number of in-house roles, so for newspapers, for charities, but I've predominantly worked for agencies, so I've worked for a number of other agencies outside of Poke, including a digital agency and a big advertising agency. So we set up Poke in 2020 at the kind of towards the end of the year, when things were still very kind of strange and it was an odd period because of COVID. Myself and a close friend who I had worked with at a previous agency became business partners, and so we set up the company with a number of contacts that we already had. We brought those clients with us. Then we have just grown and grown, so it's been really good. It's going very well. Just turned 4. Lots of nice plans for kind of the next year going forward, and there's a team of 13 of us based in our Liverpool office now.
My career path to say I'm 26 has been a little tumultuous, if that's the word. It's been kind of up and down, left and right. I started off in hospitality when I was 13 as a waitress in a farm shop near me, and then I moved on to Nando's, which I absolutely loved because the pay was pretty good for my age, and they kind of looked after us really well. And that's when I kind of got my love for hospitality. And then I came to uni in Liverpool, as I said, and I moved to the Liverpool One store from the berry store that I used to work at, and I also worked at Moose Coffee for a little bit. So I've always been in the kind of hospitality side of things until I started my degree. My degree was in physical education. I've come from a family of athletes, so I just kind of wanted to follow suit with my dad. And also they say that you just do what you're good at, and I was always really good at PE. I got really good grades, so obviously I did it. I'm sure a lot of you can relate. I got halfway through my degree and I realised through placement and being in schools that I didn't really want to teach, which was a bit of a hard realisation for me. So I decided to finish my degree, of course, and still came out with first, but I didn't do my PGCE. So all of my friends were doing their PGCEs, and I was like, what do I do now? So I went home and took a little bit of a chilled couple of months. It turned into a chilled 3 years at home, and then COVID hit. So I was doing little bits here and there in a lovely independent coffee shop near me where I was a supervisor. I also had a little year in a school, just making sure that teaching 100% wasn't for me. And this is what I'd really recommend if you do decide to have a career change. Definitely just make sure that that is the decision that you want to make. But during this time when I was at home, before I moved back to Liverpool, my mum got poorly and I ended up being her primary carer. I looked after her for a little while and then came back here in March of 2023. Realised looking at my CV, everything was hospitality based or sport based. And the hospitality was fine, but to be a waitress wasn't really going to pay my bills as a 24-year-old woman, like living in the city. So I got on LinkedIn and I did some investigating, and I basically started an apprenticeship because I thought I needed to broaden the skills that were on my CV, broaden my network, because obviously you move to a city kind of on your own and you don't know anybody. So I really broadened my skills doing a bit of a digital marketing apprenticeship. But again, you know, and there's no shame, I don't have any shame in admitting this, and you shouldn't either. It wasn't for me, just sitting behind a screen all day with like no real drive to really succeed in it, just because I just got myself into a rut. So again, I took myself to LinkedIn and I saw the Think role, and I've been here for a year now. So this is where I'm up to in my weird and wonderful career path. And without going through all those things, I wouldn't be where I am today. So yeah.
I do think it's really important to find a job that you love. Spend a lot of time at work. A big percentage of your week will be spent in your working environment, so it's important that you love it, and it's important that you feel you're getting value from it, and that it is contributing to kind of your identity in your life. And I think particularly if you choose to go down that route where you become quite career focused, it is important.
I would always say to do what you love. Obviously I love wine. Who doesn't love wine? So I would always say to do what you love. If you know your skills lay in, being friendly with people, then try and go for a customer facing role. If you know that you're a little bit more introverted, then definitely an office job where you're not necessarily on field speaking to people all the time would be more suited to you. I know I love people and I love wine, so this role is perfect for me, and yeah, I absolutely adore it.
However, I would say it's a journey, not an end point. I think a lot of people are sort of tie themselves up by trying to find something they love straight away and thinking if they don't love it, they've gone wrong, or they've made the wrong decision and they should change it. The reality is I have done a lot of jobs that I didn't enjoy, and I've done a lot of elements of my career path I haven't enjoyed. You can't enjoy one, all of it, and two, sometimes you'll make decisions that aren't quite right, but that's absolutely fine. Putting yourself under the pressure to love every part of it can sometimes mean that you feel like you're failing if you don't love it, but really it's all just a journey to get to the point where you find what you do love. In my role now as managing director, I love most of it. I love most of the job, and the bits I'm not so good at, or the bits that I'm not skilled for, I have a team in place that can fill those gaps. So I tend to do less and less of what I don't like, obviously, but now what falls on me is some of the hard conversations and some of kind of the negatives. Having to have very serious conversations with team members, we're falling behind on target, all of that's on me, and that's hard. But I don't particularly not enjoy it. I still feel that as a valuable part of my job. But I've got to this stage because I've done things that I didn't necessarily love or get joy from, but I've found elements that I did and pushed into those and then into them. So it's not as simple as day one thinking I've got to do something that I absolutely am in love with. Some of it is a bit of a process.
And doing what you love and loving what you do is important, and they do say if you do that, you'll never work a day in your life, and that is how I genuinely feel here. So that is something that's super important.
In terms of work-life balance, I think this is an ongoing question that I don't think anyone really has the answer to, and I certainly don't feel like I have the answer to it. I actually have 2 children, and so the jump and leap in the change between my work-life balance pre-having children and post-having children has been very different. So I think it's an ever-moving scale of which you have to, it's not just a 50-50 split, it changes. There's been times, especially when my children were a lot younger, I needed to give them a lot more time and attention and my work had to be on the back foot, and then the other way around, now they probably need me slightly less, and so I throw a bit more into work. So trying to find that balance is an ongoing challenge, and it varies day to day depending on who needs you when and what you're needed for.
As someone that's always suffered with mental health, like a lot of the rest of everybody, I can definitely get anxious and overwhelmed in the workplace, as everybody can. And it's definitely important to be able to manage these feelings of being overwhelmed. It's really, really important to make sure that you are doing something for yourself, especially in the evenings. And I know I'm probably preaching to the converted here, but definitely if you can move your body in a way that feels good. If you don't want to move your body, fine, just go and get in bed and get some snacks and watch a film. Like it doesn't matter. Like if you're doing what makes you happy, then you should totally do it.
In terms of on me and me kind of recognising when I'm getting stressed or I'm not coping that well, what I try to can't recommend, but what I tend to do is work myself into the ground and get some kind of flu or cold. So at that point I then realised I've gone too far. I used to, when I was younger, almost have two personalities. I could have my work personality and my home personality, and I found that worked quite well. I had this split and the two did not meet. And when I went home I didn't really think about work, and when I was in work I didn't really think about home. As I've got older and as I've got busier, that's felt less and less possible, and as I was trying to achieve that, I actually found that was putting stress on me, because I felt like I was trying to keep them two separate when actually, and the minute they started to blur or blend into one another, I would find that really stressful. So what I do now is I am just the same person at home and at work. They do blend, but what that allows me to do, it means that yes, sometimes I'm on my emails at 9 o'clock at night when I'm watching TV, but otherwise I'm also leaving at 4 sometimes because I need to go and do school pickup. So I try and, I'm aware, it takes a lot of the guilt out of it, because I'm aware that when I give one end, I take back on the other. I'm quite good at not getting stressed. And so, but I think if you are, you probably do need more of the split. In terms of kind of self-care, mental health, a lot of the time it's just finding trusted people that you can talk to. The higher up the chain you get, the harder it is, because everyone's kind of looking on you to answer their questions, and you have a lot of other people's needs depending on you. But it's good if you have like a team that you know you can go to. You're kind of finding it overwhelming and you can actually push back to them sometimes. And I do actually have a great team, so I do rely on them, and a good support network at home.
I've definitely felt guilt in over prioritising the wrong things in the workplace, particularly if you work for a small business. We are a small business, you know, it's like if I stop working, one of the cogs stop turning, and it's kind of in the forefront of my mind. But it's taken me, I'd say about 8 months to finally understand that, you know, I'm only selling wine. I'm not doing neuroscience. Like it's okay, and things do get overwhelming, but it's really, really important to just prioritise yourself and your sleep and everything, all that good stuff in between. I can recognise when I need to prioritise myself, because not to be a bit cringy, but I really lose my sparkle. I really am just looking at myself and feeling myself, and I'm like, you know, I don't want to do the things. Maybe I don't want to go to the gym. Maybe all I want to do is like come and sit at home, and you know, that's not a bad thing if that's your way of seeking happiness, but for me it's like I can recognise when I really need to start prioritising myself. And as I say, you know, I don't mean to be cringy with it, but it's literally just doing things for yourself. If you know that you're going to feel better if you get a nice chocolate bar on the way home, go to M&S and get yourself something delicious. Like, if you know that you're going to feel better for getting an early night, it's all this self-care that's so important for especially young women that are working themselves to the bone in this day and age to compete with men. Like, we have to prioritise ourselves, and we have to look after ourselves, even if it's, I hate to say it, but like running a bath, if it's taking a nice shower, if it's just taking a little bit longer in your nighttime routine, just something that's going to feel like you're giving yourself a hug, because that is really important. The next point is about adapting to change, which is really something I've had to do from my career span of going from basically like being a carer paid by the government, which at the time was £68 a week, which is absolutely insane, but because my mum has got an illness she can't help. So doing that and kind of being her primary carer into going to in the full-on corporate world was a huge change for me, a huge change, and it took me a really long time to adapt to that. But you know, adapting to things is scary in the moment, but you really don't grow unless you are outside of that comfort zone. And I was really, when I first started this role within the corporate world of being customer facing and having targets and having things to achieve, you know, week on week, for a small business, I really, you know, it did take me a little while to adapt to the change. And one day you'll just go, it's clicked. And I understand it, and I understand how I've adapted to this now. Changes, it's scary. So if you're in this kind of limbo, it's fine. I'm here to tell you that it gets better.
Adapting to change is one of the key challenges of being a business owner, and it's something that's new to me, with obviously in the last 4 years. Prior to Poke, I'd always been an employee. So the amount of changes, if I look back over the past 4 years of Poke, each year we're unrecognisable from the year before. So in some ways that's quite daunting, but in other ways it's quite exciting. It means we've kept pushing, we've kept growing. A lot of it is down to experience. A lot of it is knowing when to make those decisions, of knowing when to take the leap. So for example, we've just moved offices, we've moved to a much bigger office, and all the kind of financial side that comes with that is quite daunting. But in terms of the impact it's had on the team and working in this much nicer environment, it's been really, really positive. So it's just about kind of embracing change as much as you can. And you can't always predict how it's going to go, but there's elements where you've got the experience to back up that you can trust your own decisions.
If you're comfortable, you're not growing. And if you're uncomfortable, you are growing. And that is really something that I will 100% live by. And it's something that this job has taught me.
When I was younger, and particularly prior to having my children, so I actually had my first child when I was 27, so I'll kind of say pre-27, post-27. When I was 27, before I had my children, I was very much like a planner. Like I had visions, goals, I knew where I wanted to be, I knew my next steps, I knew kind of the route my career path was going, and I'd been like that since I was about 16. I'd had very much in like what I wanted to do, I always kind of knew what my next level of seniority should be, how I should reach it, how I should get there.
So the final point is talking about the importance of planning ahead and recognising how to reach your goals and creating a starting point whilst thinking about what you want to do. So this is really, really key. When I was sat kind of miserable in my apprenticeship, just like, this isn't what I want to do, it doesn't make me happy. It's really important to recognise that your life is written by you. So if you want to stay in a job that you're unhappy in, I understand it's scary, and I understand taking that leap is really tough, but it's your life. And we are all, I imagine I'm speaking to girls that are in their 20s right now, we're all in our 20s, and I'm 26 now, and I think, oh my gosh, like the past 5 years, have I actually done everything that I've wanted to do for myself, or have I stayed somewhere out of guilt? And I reflect on that now, and I think, well, yeah, maybe I did stay somewhere a little bit too long because it was a guilt thing. Especially like with the sport, I was just so like, I've invested all this time and money and blood, sweat and tears into this degree, and then to just not do anything with it, like I just felt like a failure. But I'm here to tell you, if you're in the same position as me, you're not at all a failure. I can tell myself right now, it was just part of my journey, it was just part of my process, and that's why sometimes you just have to take that leap in the moment, as long as you've really given it a decent thought, spoken to your loved ones, and recognise, that starting point is key for the rest of, that segment of your journey.
I think it's just looking back and learning that a lot of the time you can't plan. So I often say, the job I have, jobs I've had, particularly when I left university, I went into social media. That was my first roles were in social media. Now, I couldn't have wanted to do that when I was at school. It didn't exist, those roles didn't exist. And increasingly in today's world, our school leavers, university leavers, there'll be jobs in 10, 15 years time that don't exist now. So you can't always predict or know what's coming. So as much as you would like to be able to just plan and always have that next step and have your goals in mind, I have found, and my probably best advice would be, it's about positioning yourself to be open to opportunities. Rather than necessarily thinking, what's my next step and how do I get there? It's instead putting yourself in positions, saying yes, being open to opportunities, and also being confident in asking for what you want when you see an opportunity there. People don't come to you with things, people don't bring things to your plate. You have to put yourself there and ask for those things. So even my role at MD, when we started Poke, I actually had 2 jobs. Obviously the nature of setting up a business means it's not always possible from day one to take a salary. I did another job for the first two and a half years. Once I was ready to come into this business full time, I came in, I was like, I want to be MD, this is my proposal, this is how I want it to work, this is how we're going to approach it with my business partner. You have to be able to put yourself in the position that you know confidently what you would like, but see yourself in that position by creating opportunities, or at least being open to the opportunities that come.
If I didn't, apply for this job on LinkedIn, I'd maybe still just be unhappy behind a laptop. Some techniques, I would definitely talk about goal setting. I know some of you may think, oh, goal setting, but goal setting is key for your development and planning ahead and recognising how to reach your goals. I'm sure you've all heard of the SMART goals, so if you can make your goals apply to the SMART technique, it's definitely a really good method of keeping yourself on track, keeping yourself accountable, and also making sure they're not totally unrealistic. If my goal was this month to sell 1 million bottles of wine, I'm never going to get there, and I'm always going to feel daunted and haunted by the fact that I can't do that. And I mean, I'm not saying I can't do that, because maybe I could, but you know, it's all depending on your journey and what you're doing. And as women in business, it's really, really important to remember that, you know, we're as good as men. I'm not absolutely men bashing here, but we are as good, if not better, in many circumstances than men. So it's definitely important to keep yourself on track, keep yourself accountable, look after yourself, and do what you love. And you know, some of you might be sitting here going, I don't know what I love yet. That's okay. I didn't know what I loved. I thought I wanted to be a teacher. And now I look back on that and I think, wow, like, so, you know, you sometimes just take some lived in experiences to understand what you want to do. So I understood that I didn't want to be a PE teacher from doing my degree, and it was a tough pill to swallow, yeah, but then, you know, these things are what shapes your journey and shapes you as a person. And you got to remember, like, people are in and out of jobs and careers all the time. You don't owe anybody anything. So if you're unhappy somewhere, if you start something and you think, it's okay, you are worth so much more than sitting and being unhappy. So yeah, I would definitely say, think ahead about what you want to do. Realise your goals, write them down, as big or as small as they may be, as professional or personal as they may be, and understand that everybody's on a different path. Don't look at your friends and think, oh my God, they've got a house of kids, 60k, like whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, you are on your own journey and you are doing extremely, extremely well. Yeah. I wanted to finish this off by saying, if any of you would like to reach out to me on LinkedIn or grab a coffee, I'm always here to talk about business and maybe next steps, particularly if you're interested in the alcohol industry. I'm here to give advice on that. And yeah, I hope you all have a lovely rest of your evening, and thank you so much for having me on here. And as I say, just get in touch if you want to ask me any questions, and connect with me on LinkedIn and we can be besties. Thanks so much, bye.